Welcome to a new video in my home automation series, and I want to cover my sort of like final version, or at least release one version of my dashboard 2.05 browser, because I've been working on this for quite some time now, and I think I managed to like develop all the functionalities that I wanted to include. Well, actually the things that I had in mind originally, and I want to get this version out so you can use it, and maybe when you use it you have some new ideas what I can improve or what features that I can include in the next release. But I think it pretty much does everything that you should maybe you want to have or you can use in a Node-RED in order to access the file system in your Node-RED server. And I mean, it just makes my life quite easy. I don't have to like SSH into my server. If I want something simple, just check a file, maybe download a couple of logs that the Node-RED is creating. So I think it is quite useful, and I wanted to close this, or sort of like close this release at least for now, and just get the new latest version to you so you can use it as well. So let's look at the thing, and I'm probably going to go through. Let me just move my face in the middle so we are not blocking any of the buttons. So just quickly go through the features, although I covered some of this in the previous video. So I created a custom skin for this, so you see that it actually uses quite a few groups, well actually only 3 groups, but then I modified the theme so you don't see borders, because I think it looks a little bit easier and cleaner for the eye. But we have a big toolbar, so this is where you have all the different functions, and you have like hints for all of the functions. You have a file lister component, and you have the preview component. So it feels like, like a Windows Explorer, that sort of stuff. So here on the top we have refresh, which refreshes the screen. You have a parent folder, so that goes one folder up, and you have a home folder. So if you navigate away, you just want to get to your home that you define in a code, you can just click here, and then the current folder is also shown here. And down here you can see all the different files, and yeah, so the way it works at the moment, or looks like that, you have folders that are shown in blue, and then the actual, yeah, those are the folders, and the actual files are shown in yellow. And you can use these page buttons to go through. And actually in this screen, I think this is a slightly smaller screen, or the font size is different, but in a normal HD screen, it sort of like fits in the screen, so you don't have to scroll up and down in order to access these buttons. And there are a couple of selected icons for the different files, and you can see the file size and the created and the change date, and you have quick search as well. So if you do quick search, then it filters down the number of items to the ones that have a matching text in the name. And up here we have a couple of functions. So we have before that, so you can select files from this like that using the checkboxes, and it shows you how much the files that you have selected. You can select folders as well. And but if you don't do this, then you can just click on that file, and then it's going to show the preview of that file. This preview is supported for a couple of types, like text types and images. And it's also only supported for certain sizes, because I don't want to render like a very big image or a very big text file in the screen. And usually the functions that you can see up here are either related to the file which is shown here, or if you have multiple files, then it's the files that I have selected here. So if I selected this file, if I want to delete it, I can delete it. It shows a confirmation, then it gets deleted. If I want to delete these 2 files, I can select it and I delete it, and then it gets deleted. So that's why I said. And you have options here to also download a file. So here this downloads the file that you have selected. You have a download all file, which downloads everything in the current folder, regardless of filters or anything you have. And Also, if you select multiple files and then you hit download file, actually that downloads the files that you have selected. So then it says that it's going to create a zip, and then once the zip is created, that you will get a download link for that zip file. So fairly standard functions, nothing crazy. I'm going to skip the next two and then just go through here. I created this quick toggle. So if you want to hide the folders, you can do that. And you can hide the folders. You can also show or hide hidden files, which I don't really have any. I think I have some hidden folders, actually. Yeah, so some of the system folders are hidden. And you have some date filters, so you can filter on things that are created or changed in a certain date range. So let's say I want to filter on based on files that are created, and I can also do like a preset here. So there's nothing that is created today. Oops. But if I do, I haven't really done anything last 7 days. Oh, okay, so there are a couple of files that are created in the last 7 days. So you can use that, and you can remove the filter to disable it. And you can see that this sort of like, it shows whether that function is enabled or not by having a bit of a sort of that circle. So these two are definitely new. I haven't talked about those. And I included an upload functionality as well. I did a previous video on how to do uploads, but you can just, let's say I want to upload this file, upload file. Okay, the new file is uploaded. It's actually here. So, you know, file uploading works. As I said previously, there is some sort of limit. I said about 1 megabyte. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly 1 megabyte. So sometimes even I can't upload even smaller files, but I couldn't really figure out what's the issue. But once I fix it, I will let you know in a follow-up video. So I've also included an edit function. So it is only enabled for text files or text sort of files like CSVs, JSONs, SH files, and I can edit it. So an editor comes up. It's not really nice, and I haven't really figured out what's the best way of handling sort of like auto sizing of these things. So obviously now it is not a big file, so I can fit on one screen, and I can type, you know, additional stuff to it. If it becomes a really big file, then this whole thing becomes scrollable, which I couldn't really stop the top part not being scrollable. So it's not the best user-friendly experience when it comes to a really big file, because then once to start scrolling down, the name of the file and the save button disappears, so you have to scroll up in order to access that. But let's say we want to make a quick change. So I created two new lines, new line 1, new line 2, and I save it. And I don't remember, it was this file. So you can see that the two new files that are created just added. So again, it's just a quick file editor. It just makes it really easy if you need to edit something on your server. So I mean, for me, sometimes things that I need to edit is the settings.js. Maybe for that it would be a good idea to include like a backup functionality here, just to make sure that you don't screw up anything by editing a file. So that could actually be a new feature. And actually, so that was the last one. I think the edit was the last feature that I added, especially from the last video. So I finished the filters, upload, and edit. So these were the last things that I did. So that's where the file browser is at the moment. And I wanted to say again that I'm going to export. So this entire flow here is the file browser. And so if you import this, then the only thing you really have to do is here there is a default folder. So you change this and then you deploy and then inject. So it stores the default folder for you, because it's probably not going to be, like home. It's not going to be /home/Nigma, but /home/Pi or something else. But I think everything else is, yeah, and maybe after that you can hit on it, and then it's going to work. One thing I noticed, and again, this is something that I haven't really figured out, is that once I start navigating, like I navigate here and I come back to the file browser, and then the files disappear. And I mean, it's really strange because I can see, you know, it still sees 60 files, but it doesn't display it. And if I refresh, so sometimes I refresh and it appears. Sometimes I click on the home folder and then it appears. But sometimes even that doesn't help. But then if I just press F5 and refresh the screen, then everything just works. So that's sort of like things that well, that's one thing that I haven't figured out. But maybe I will find a solution for that. So in the previous videos, I already mentioned about, I think, everything up here, and also I started working on the date filters. The only thing I wanted to do here, well, the only thing I wanted to add here is that within this date filter, so I had a separate video on how you can create dialogues. And so I created this dialog which has two dates, and then it also has a combo box. So that's basically a drop down, they call it combo box. So you define the values that you want to have. And when you select this, so it is set to the model preset. So that's the variable which would pick up the value that you have selected. And yep. And in order to handle when something is selected from this combo box, I could create in the watch. So usually I create a watch function for the message object. So that's when message is received, like I need to, you know, open up the dialog. But then I could also create a function on the preset variable. So when that is getting changed, so that's in the watch section. And I just created a big sort of like if structure. So if the preset is today, then the from value is this, and the to value is basically the from value plus 1 day. And I've handled all these cases. So that's basically just pre-populates the from and the to based on whatever you have selected. So if you want to have more cases, you can look at these, how I did that, and basically, yeah, selected the to and the from. And again, if you remember, so these date fields expect the dates to be in year, day, month format, I think. So that's how it stores the value. And then the to ISO string function generates the date in exactly that format. So, and I did this split T thing, and the first array that basically just splits the this ISO string. So it's like a date and a T and the time. So I split it at T, and I only use the first value, which is always the date. So that's how I get rid of the time part of the date time. And the rest of it is just like in my previous example. So I haven't really done anything that. And once the dates are selected from the pop-ups, so it's either the created or the change date, then I store it in the browser settings. So I have this variable context flow browser settings, and you can see that the change filter is the create filter is set to false. So if I enable, let's say this week, set the filter, then if I refresh this, yeah, then it stores these values in the filter. So there is a from and the to date now that I have selected, and that actually goes back to this refresh. So that feeds back into here, and whenever I read the folder and I do the prep data, I handle that, if I have a filter created, or I have a created date filter or a change date filter, then I get the from and the to dates from the browser settings, so these values, and I have a big loop which loops through all the files where I can filter out the folders, and I can use the same to filter out the files that are not in the date range. So yeah, then whatever goes to the file explorer, which is basically this component, would just not contain those files. That's simple. Okay, and so that's the same for the created and the changed. And for the upload one, I display the upload dialog. Again, the difference I've done here from the previous video where I talked about how you handle the upload is that the uploading UI part, so that's basically this one. So as you can see, it's pretty much the same as what I had in the previous example video. The only difference here is I put everything into a dialog, so it's like a pop-up dialog. So it's a dialog window, and in the dialog window I have a card which is exactly the same as the card that I used in my previous examples. I mean, of course, this card has a toolbar, and then it has a piece of text which shows that it only works for around 1 megabyte, and it has the same progress and everything as before, or as in the other example. The only other thing I added is I added this close dialog, which actually closes. So you can use it to select one file, upload another file, and then when you are done uploading, you can close the dialog using the close window. And the rest of it is pretty much the same. So this file upload, it doesn't have multiple, so you upload a file once, well, separately. And so the upload option is exactly, I think the uploading part is just like my single binary upload example. Yeah, it updates the progress bars and the message that is successfully uploaded, and then the output. Again, I get the file name, I construct the file name, I put it into the folder that was selected at the moment, so in this case in this folder, and I add the file name, and then it just goes to a write file, exactly the same as I did in my previous video. So that's a simple one. I mean, it was easy to implement this after I've done I've gone through the examples. And I find the last one, so it's when the topic is upload, and the last one is the edit file. So that handles the edit file action. So first I create a simple function node where basically I either get the file that is selected, or if there is no file selected in the preview, then I check whether I have any files selected like this. So I can edit the file by selecting the file, or by clicking here and then using the preview to edit the file. And then I think every time it checks whether that file has certain extensions that are allowed for editing, so sort of like text sort of types, which I think I handle here. Yeah, you see, if the file extension is either CSV, text, SH, PY, or JSON, then the edit file is false, so that's inverse. So this is where I enable the edit file icon, this file icon. So if you want to add some additional files, you can extend this array here. So here again, I just determine what file got selected, what file is selected, and I read that file. So I read it up, and I created this special dialog. So when I was talking about how you can create dialogues, I think I mentioned that there is this full screen dialog which sort of like, rises up from the bottom. So that's the example that I used in order to create this file editor. And actually it's very simple. So as you can see, it has a dialog which has a transition from the bottom, and then it goes full screen. So it goes full screen. So it's not like a dialog which is the file upload dialog, which only shows up sort of like in the middle of the screen, but it is actually sort of like comes full screen. and it has a close button, and then on the top in the toolbar I show the file name and then the actual file name, and then it also have a save button on the right, and which calls the save file method. And whenever I call this whenever I send a message in, so that's here, then I checked whether I checked this socket ID, which I already mentioned about the dialogues, but basically I put the payload, which we just read from the file system, so that's the content of the file, and I put it into the file content variable, and I put the file name into the file name, so that updates the file name here, and the file content is basically this big text area. So that's the multi-line text editor, which occupies most of the screen. You can see that it's set to width 100% and height 100%. I'm not actually sure if you can use these variables here. I mean, I think to some extent these are depreciated, or I think probably these are depreciated attributes, because you should really be using a CSS for defining size. So maybe I could use some CSS magic, which I don't know how to use, to make this full screen or full height. But it seems to sort of like resize itself to the content which is in the text area. Well, this one is set to auto grow, but yeah, maybe I should not use auto grow and then just rely on, have this text area rely on the parent object, which is this div, which is 100%. So I could play around with this, but it's working fine and it's not that bad. And then we display the dialogue, and when we click on the where is it? Yeah, so when I click on the close button, I just set the dialog to false, which just closes the dialog. And if I click on the save button, so we call the method save file, and in that save file I again close the dialog, and I put the file content back into the message.payload, and I send the message out. And once I send this message out, I put the message into a write node and with an overwrite file. So that's basically writes the content back into the file, and that's it. I mean, it is only meant for text files, and it seems to be working fine with the text files. Not that I have tested with a lot of different encodings. So if you want to use it in sort of like sensitive files in production environment, then make sure you test it with a couple of different file types. But I don't think it has any, bugs in it. I mean, maybe there could be some issues with the encoding. So if you are using something which, some file which has, like special characters, even if I use it with, something which has all the Hungarian accent, or, if you have some special things, then maybe you should pick the encoding. I've never really played around with this, to be honest, so I don't have a lot of experience how you can handle encoding. So it just set to default encoding. Maybe it's better if you select UTF-8 if you have some issues, or I wonder if the read file can. Yes, this is also set to default encoding. But there are a lot of different encodings that are supported here. So if you have some special requirement, like Japanese, Korean encoding, Chinese, something that you have to handle, then you might have to play around with this one a little bit. Maybe have this to set to a certain encoding, and then to use this option. So I'm guessing that if it has any special encoding, that it will be put into the message.encoding. So you can use the same one in the file write. But again, as I said, for simple text files which doesn't have any special characters, English stuff, it was working fine. So there should be no major issues with that. And once you update it, then just like with the file save and with the date filters, I just loop it all the way back to, sorry, this one. Yeah, just, you know, reread the folders so we have the updated view of these files. And that's pretty much it, because the rest of it, I think I already explained in previous videos. So I definitely don't want to go through that as well. And that one is just a file preview, which again, I haven't really touched since sort of the first version of this, I think. So as I said, it is ready to be, it's ready for release 1 of the Dashboard 2.0 file browser. And when I do this, then I'm going to share this entire flow. So you can just import it into Dashboard 2.0 and it's going to bring everything with it. As I said, the only thing you need to change is the initial folder here. Oh, sorry, again, not the navbar buttons. No, that's not going to be included, so only this one. So that's the only thing that you need to change. There is nothing really else, and the only special node that I'm using is this file browser node, which is, it's called Node-RED Contrib FS. That's for this, and everything else is standard nodes and Dashboard 2.0, and actually there is one more here, which is here. It's base 64. So that's I used to encode images to inline images in base 64 format. So that's is called Node-RED Node base 64. Okay, so if you want this code, then go to the video description. You will find a link to, well, you will find a download link to this file, and you can just import it and make the changes that I just mentioned, and it should be, you know, up and running. The only thing I wanted to mention, that if you have any ideas, if you find any bugs, just, you know, leave a comment in the comment section, and I will probably just do another release if there are any bugs, or if there are any good, you know, suggestions what I should do next, because well, these are the initial ideas that I have, and I'm not to say that I'm using this on a daily basis, so I usually don't have an awful lot of new requirements coming in constantly, but you know, maybe there is something that you want to use, and you know, it's going to be good to add this to this you know, whole flow and file browser, because I think it works really nice. I really love the functionality. I think it is really useful. It just makes the life easier, makes it you know, easy to access these files, which you might have to do a couple of times, and it's just easy to call this up instead of you know, logging into SSH or FileZilla or something else to access these files, just to, you know, check on something. So I think that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you next video.